Tonight's video features 3 stories you were never meant to hear. These aren't ghost tales or urban legends. These are real encounters from real people who lived through something they can't explain. Settle in, because once these stories start, you'll feel like you're right there with them. Story 1. The wind howled like a starving wolf outside the tiny research outpost, a constant, grating reminder of our isolation. We were 3 weeks into our 6-month stint in this unforgiving Arctic expanse, and the novelty of the stark white landscape had long since dissolved into a gnawing dread. My only companions were Dr. Eris Thorne and Lena Hansen, both seasoned veterans of polar research, but even their stoicism seemed to be fraying at the edges. It started subtly. Strange tracks, too large and too oddly spaced to be any known Arctic creature, appearing just beyond the perimeter fence after a fresh snowfall. Thorne dismissed them as wind-sculpted ice formations, but they possessed an unsettling regularity, a deliberate pattern that felt wrong. Lena, ever practical, blamed migrating caribou, though her voice lacked conviction. Then came the radio interference, static, a thick, chittering blanket, whenever we tried to reach base. It felt deliberate, like something was jamming the signal, a sentient presence pushing back against our attempts to connect with the outside. Thorne spent hours fiddling with the equipment, his usual meticulous demeanor replaced by a frustrated urgency. The nights became the worst. The perpetual twilight bled into an unbroken darkness, punctuated only by the weak glow of our generator and the distant, indifferent stars. Sleep was a shallow, restless thing, easily disturbed by the creaks and groans of the outpost settling, or the relentless shriek of the wind. Last night, the wind died down for a terrifying hour. The silence was more unnerving than the storm. It was then that I heard it. A soft, insistent tap, tapping at the reinforced glass of the observation dome. I froze, my heart hammering against my ribs. Thorne and Lena were asleep in their bunks. I told myself it was ice, a falling icicle. But the rhythm was too even, too deliberate. I crept to the dome, my breath misting the supercooled glass. Outside there was nothing but an endless, featureless expanse of white. Then a gust of wind, a sudden violent blizzard, descended. The world outside dissolved into a swirling vortex of snow, a maelstrom of white. Through a brief, fleeting gap in the tempest, I thought I saw it. A figure? Tall, indistinct, draped in something that shimmered like snow, a pallid white against the white. It was there, then gone, swallowed by the storm. Lena woke me this morning. She'd seen it too, she whispered, her face pale. A shape in the whiteout, just beyond the door. We haven't spoken of it since. The radio remains dead. The tracks are still there, closer now, and I can feel it. The cold that isn't just the absence of heat, but something ancient and watching, waiting in the unending white. The tapping hasn't returned, but the silence is far more terrifying. Story 2. The sun died 2 months ago. Now it's just me, Elias, and the rattling wind against the corrugated steel of Outpost 73. The isolation is a physical thing, a crushing weight of perpetual dark that makes the silence scream. We lost the satellites a week after December began. Now the radio is useless, just a thin, cracked membrane of static, spitting white noise that sounds dangerously like breathing. My last communication was a garbled whisper from Resolute Bay about storms and delaying the resupply flight. That was 20 days ago. The routine is the only thing keeping the blackness out. Coffee, systems check, perimeter sweep. It was during the sweep yesterday that I stopped. The snowdrift around the northern exhaust vent was undisturbed, pristine, except for the tracks. They weren't bare. A bear's print is heavy, padded, and wide. These were too long, almost segmented, like something dragging itself forward on calcified fingers. They started 10 yards out and stopped abruptly right beneath the vent, as if the creator had simply dissolved upward into the cold air. I checked the sensor readings. Nothing. No seismic activity, no heat signature, nothing that explained the impossible disturbance in the snow. I retreated, pulling the heavy steel door shut and bolting it, even though I knew the locks were meant to keep the weather out, not something that could leave tracks like that. The whiteout started early this afternoon, thick and absolute. It was a shroud of swirling nothingness, erasing the perimeter lights within seconds. I was trying to recalibrate the weather beacon when I heard it, a sound that shouldn't exist in that storm. Not the howl of the wind, but a scraping, sliding noise, heavy and slick, right outside the window of the observation deck. I pressed my face against the frozen pane, wiping a circle clear. Visibility was 0, but for a brief second, the wind parted the snow just enough. I didn't see an animal. I saw movement. Something tall, impossibly elongated and ghastly pale, like a strip of bone moving against the blizzard's gray. It moved too fast, too smoothly, and then the snow swallowed it again. It's 3 a.m. now. The generator hums beside my bunk, the only steady rhythm in this frozen grave. I haven't moved from my chair. I'm staring at the inner door of the airlock, my rifle resting across my lap. The sliding noise is gone. The scraping has stopped. In the sudden, awful quiet of the building, a sound cuts through the silence. A slow, deliberate thud. It's coming from the other side of that heavy steel. It's not the wind. It's not the building settling. It's a knock. And it is waiting for me to ask, who is it? Story 3. The wind was a living thing out here, a ravenous beast gnawing at the foundations of Outpost 7. 300 kilometers from anything resembling civilization, the steel walls groaned under its assault, each shriek a fresh reminder of the crushing isolation. I was alone, a speck of consciousness adrift on a sea of ice and endless night. My only company, a flickering generator and the ghost of a radio signal. It started subtly, as these things always do. A morning patrol, just beyond the solar array. The snow was fresh, a pristine canvas, save for the tracks. Not bear, not wolf. Too long, too narrow, too deliberate for anything I'd ever seen. They skirted the perimeter fence, paused at the main gate, then vanished as abruptly as they'd appeared, swallowed by the rising drift. I dismissed them as a trick of light, a snowdrift shaped by the wind into something unsettling. But the image stuck. Then came the static. Days ago, Resolute Bay crackled with news, weather, a human voice. Now, it was just a constant hiss, punctuated by bursts of unintelligible wailing. The comms tech, long neglected, simply gave up the ghost. I was truly cut off. The whiteouts, already a frequent torment, grew more aggressive, turning the world into a featureless, blinding void. Stepping outside felt like walking into a dream or a nightmare. The knocks began on the third night after the radio died. 3 distinct thumps, heavy and resonant against the thick steel of the main entrance. My blood ran cold. The generator hummed, the wind howled, but those knocks cut through everything. I grabbed my rifle, heart hammering against my ribs, and peered through the reinforced viewport. Nothing. Just the swirling, blinding snow, an impenetrable wall of white. I told myself it was the wind, the ice settling, the outpost groaning under the strain. But it wasn't the wind. The next night the knocks were softer, more hesitant, like something testing the surface. I pressed my ear to the door, listening to the silence that followed. Then, a scraping sound, faint but unmistakable, like something dragging itself across the corrugated metal. I snatched up a powerful spotlight, wrenched open the inner hatch, and shone the beam into the maelstrom. The light cut a pathetic swathe through the blizzard, illuminating nothing but dancing flakes. Yet in the periphery of the beam, I thought I saw it. A flicker, a movement, a shape that was whiter than the whiteout itself, gone as soon as my eyes attempted to focus. I slammed the hatch shut, my breath ragged. My own reflection stared back at me, wild-eyed and desperate. The knocks came again, louder this time, not just at the door, but seemingly all around the outpost, echoing in the gale, a chorus of heavy thuds against metal walls. The generator sputtered, then died, plunging Outpost 7 into absolute darkness. And then, a single, Sharp knock. Not on the door, not on the walls, but on the reinforced glass of my viewport. From the inside.